How's it going, guys? It's the Pixelate Pumpkin, and welcome back to another Versus video. In today's Versus video, we have Buzzsaw from Spirit Halloween 2021 going up against Rusty from Spirit Halloween 2019. Now, these are two pretty similar props. They're both serial killer props, kinda, and they both have mechanical weapons as their weapon of choice, I guess you could say. Buzzsaw obviously has his buzzsaw, and Rusty obviously has his chainsaw, so I thought these were two really good props to put up together since they are definitely very different, so it's going to be a bit of a difficult versus video to do, but they also have a lot of similarities, which obviously that's why I chose these two to put together. And as always, we compare three things: animation, audio/phrases, and overall look. So I guess without any more hesitation, we'll start off with animation for Buzzsaw. Starting us off with animation, we have Buzzsaw. Now, Buzzsaw has three movements of animation: his mouth, his torso side-to-side animation, and of course, his buzzsaw. Now, I think the buzzsaw moving is incredible here. It's so unique. Hardly any props that have buzzsaws on them ever have buzzsaws turning. So obviously, he has some very, very unique animation there. But we'll just talk about his other two animations real quick, just get them out of the way. First, mouth animation, I think it is perfectly fine. It is just the standard SVI mouth animation. Really doesn't need anything more or less there. I think it is perfect the way it is. Obviously, not very unique though, because pretty much every SVI prop these days has mouth animation. But I always think it's a plus when props are given mouth animation, since it adds a lot of realism to the animatronic. And then his side-to-side torso movement, I think it is fine. There's really not much else to say there. It's just basic, and it's honestly kind of nice, since I feel like a prop like this wouldn't even have side-to-side animation typically, so it is really nice to see them putting side-to-side animation on this prop, since, like, obviously, if you don't get out of the way, his buzzsaw will get you. And speaking of his buzzsaw, that's definitely the most awesome point of animation on this guy. It starts up whenever you hear the buzzsaw revving in his phrases, and it stops when the revving stops. So obviously it is all synced up properly, which I think is really cool to his phrases, and overall I just think it looks incredible. The way it spins is really cool too. It goes quite fast, so it definitely adds some realism there, and it does look like it can cut you, even though it's made of plastic, which I don't think it can, but still it's really cool. Another thing I wish they could have done was maybe put a separate speaker in the buzzsaw, so whenever he says it, or whenever it plays in his phrase, it sounds like the spinning or the sound is actually coming from the buzzsaw, but, you know, that would have probably costed a lot more, so I don't know. But overall, I think he has some very unique animation with that buzzsaw there. Just really, really incredible stuff. Even though it just spins, pretty much no props to date have done this, except for, like, I believe one other being the Morbid Enterprises zombie soldier. So I think it is really unique and really awesome. So definitely a huge plus for Buzzsaw's animation. Now for Rusty's animation. Rusty is a jump scare prop where he quickly raises his chainsaw over his head and then shakes his head violently and frantically, making for a great jump scare in my opinion, and then slowly lowers his chainsaw down. Overall, I think his animation is really solid, so let's break it down. We'll start with the jump scare being where he quickly raises the chainsaw over his head. I think this is definitely an effective jump scare, maybe not the best, but it is sure to startle a lot of people, making for a very interesting jump scare prop. But I don't know, I feel like a prop more like Sitting Scarecrow is a bit more surprising since it's very unexpected, but I still think his animation with the jump scare is definitely very startling and pretty good. Now for his head shaking violently back and forth, this is definitely the coolest part of his animation in my opinion, since it just makes him seem like he's a complete maniac and definitely adds a lot to his character, which you can't really say much about animation with adding to their character, but here I definitely think it does, because it looks very realistic the way he shakes his head back and forth, and honestly I think it looks really incredible and works very well for the character. Overall, I think his jump scare is really good and it's sure to startle a few people. Not the best jump scare in my opinion, and compared to Buzzsaw, I think they are pretty equal, since it's pretty hard comparing them on their animation here, since obviously one is a jump scare and one is more of just a simple moving prop, but I think I'm going to have to give the point for animation to Buzzsaw here, just because his Buzzsaw spinning animation is so unique and hardly ever done. I think he definitely deserves the point for animation. I think Rusty's animation is still very cool though, and definitely a very effective jump scare, but I just think Buzzsaw's uniqueness to him definitely adds a lot to his character. what you just listened to right there was Rusty's audio, and I do really like it. It is certainly very scary and menacing sounding, but I'll break it down for you. So starting off with the jump scare sound, which is arguably the most important thing here, I feel like it's a little bit weak. It could have definitely been a little bit better with a massive rev of the chainsaw engine to start off the jump scare. I think that would have been incredible, but they played this kind of weird sounding sound effect before it, which it makes it sound a little bit weird, but I still think it can help the jump scare out a lot here, since I think him just, again, as I mentioned, just raising the chainsaw over his head very fast doesn't make for the most startling jump scare, but I do feel like it works well. But nonetheless, I still think the beginning part of the jump scare is a little bit weak. But now for the rest of his audio, the laughing and just the sounds of the chainsaw and the screaming definitely make his audio sound very, very scary in my opinion. I definitely think it is some of the strongest audio from Techie Toys. They always have incredible audio, and Rusty is definitely no exception. I really love the screaming and the chainsaw sound effects. I feel like if the chainsaw sound effects were maybe a little bit louder and a little bit more high quality sounding, it could have helped out here a little bit too, but I still think it sounds really good. And just the laughing from Rusty himself just makes him seem like such a menacing character, like he's going to cut you up into pieces any second, which definitely adds a lot to his character. The audio definitely just does so much to help him out here, and I really, really love his audio. And just the screaming in the background also helps out too, from probably one of his next victims, which I really like. So overall, I think his animation is really good and definitely works well for a jump scare, and just overall really awesome. Let's take a listen to Buzzsaw's audio now.
Looks like you need a little trimming. A nip here, a tuck there. You'll be perfect in no time. Did you see that? I saw that. You need to be cut down to size. I've got a hammer, and I hammer in the evening all over this place.
Alright, so what you just listened to right there were a few of Buzzsaw's phrases. He does have a lot, which is a major plus I'll get into in a little bit. But you just heard a few of his phrases right there. I believe he has 6 or 7. I could be wrong about that. He has a few long ones and a few short ones, which really a very incredible part about him, which again I'll get into in a minute. But overall, I just want to talk about like his voice, what he says, and just really how well it fits the character. I honestly really like his voice here. It's not just a generic, deep-sounding voice. He does have a very unique voice here, which is something I could definitely appreciate and definitely really like about him. Also, I think the Buzzsaw sound effect here sounds really good, and obviously it was definitely the sound was definitely from a real Buzzsaw sound effect, which I think works really great here and just really sticks out as the most unique part of his phrases. And I think what he says is a little bit cheesy and corny sometimes, but most of the time I think it works out well. Just a bit of a downside here, I don't think his phrases are very scary at all or very menacing. He's kind of just joking around with you. He's not going to be like, I'm going to cut you up and eat you for dinner, which I feel like that may have been a little bit better, making him more of a deranged sounding character, which I think would have been a lot better here. But overall, I think his phrases, while corny, they sound all right, and definitely they're not the worst phrases we've heard. Nah, far from it, actually. But a huge plus, again, is how many phrases he says. We normally only see props with like 1, 2, or 3 phrases now, and I think him having this many phrases really reminds me of Old Spirit. Back to when props had a whole ton of phrases, like Barnyard Butcher, a few others. Just, I'm bringing up Barnyard Butcher since he's my favorite, but, just again, the amount of phrases he has is such a massive plus, and definitely gives me hope that they'll start going back to having props with a lot more phrases. And in terms of what he says, again, it's a bit corny, but still having a lot of phrases. I guess quantity over quality here, honestly, because he's not repeating the same thing over and over again. So that's another huge plus, in my opinion, the amount of phrases. But overall, I have to say, feel like I'm going to have to give this one to Rusty, just because his phrases here for Buzzsaw definitely are not very menacing whatsoever. I just feel like Rusty overall has more scary sounding audio effects and stuff like that. Even though Buzzsaw says so many different things, this is definitely going to be a bit of a controversial one here, but I just feel like what he says could definitely be improved in the writing, and I feel like all the sound effects and everything are fine for Buzzsaw, but I just feel like Rusty's jump scare and how menacing he sounds is just a little bit better. But we're tied up now, so let's head to the final category, being overall look, and we'll see who takes home the victory. To start us off in the overall look category, we have Buzzsaw. Now, I have to say, he is probably one of the most unique Spirit Halloween animatronics we've seen in a very, very long time. For one, he is a male human being, and there's nothing really covering his face. Rusty, yes, he is supposed to be a human being, but obviously he has his burlap mask on, which prevents you from seeing his face, but I'll get into that later on when we actually take a look at his overall look. But for one, it is just fully being shown here. He is just a normal human being like me and you, except he has chopped off his hands and replaced them with weapons, which I think look incredible. Also, he is overweight, which definitely adds a lot. He definitely helps out with his character building a lot here. He is supposed to be this big, fat, hillbilly guy who definitely wants to kill you, which overall, I think the decision to have him being an overweight guy really just adds so much to the character here. You really feel like this guy's a hillbilly, and I don't know, it's just so unique having him be that kind of shape and overweight. We really have not seen a single prop like this, or at least an SVI prop like this. Most of the time, the characters are very slim to, I guess, help with product cost and stuff, but I feel like him being overweight here really sells the character a lot. Now for his face, I think his face is super detailed with the masquerade around his eyes, or whatever that's called, and his scars. Definitely his scars are one of the coolest parts here. One problem I majorly have with his face is that his eyes light up. I really feel like this prop, it just makes no sense to have his eyes light up. He's meant to be a normal human being, so having his eyes light up really takes a lot of the realism away from this character. I feel like if his eyes didn't light up, it really would have added to the human being thing they're going for. So I really don't know why they had to have his eyes light up, but again, it's just generic SVI stuff. It's something you have to expect when getting an SVI prop. Most of the time, their props' eyes light up, which I feel like this is definitely one of the most unnecessary cases of having eyes light up, which I feel like over time, people have really started not liking the light up eyes. Personally, I like them a lot, but having them on Buzzsaw really takes away from a lot of the realism this character has. Now for probably the main thing, his hammer and his Buzzsaw. I'll start with the hammer since obviously he's called Buzzsaw. The main attraction is the Buzzsaw, but for his hammer, I honestly really, really like it. It is super detailed. It's definitely this huge mallet, and I feel like something that could have really benefited just overall for Buzzsaw is blood. There is a severe lack of blood in Spirit props as of recent. I really feel like they're trying to tone things back, make things very kid-friendly, which is just really disappointing to me. They could have had an all-out gore fest with this prop, which I think would have been incredible and just added so much to this guy. Even a little bit of blood, like they have a Wacky Mole's mallet, if they had a little bit of blood on this one, I feel like it could have been incredible, and it really did a lot more to help this guy out with his overall look. But I don't know, I just think the severe lack of blood on the hammer really takes a lot away from it, unfortunately. But for the most part, I think the hammer design and the amount of detail packed in here is very good, and something I definitely like. Now for the Buzzsaw. I think the Buzzsaw looks great, especially the things connecting to the arms, like for the hammer again, like the thing connecting the hammer to his arm looks great too, and same thing goes for the Buzzsaw. And I think the Buzzsaw itself looks really good. The design, everything's fine there. Maybe I think if they made it more of a metallic color, like made it shiny, the Buzzsaw, it could have looked cool, and again, added blood to it, but you really can't expect that from Spirit anymore to have blood on their props. They really just want to tone things back, which again is a major disappointment to me. So I don't know. Overall, I think he has a very, very incredible overall look, and there's just so much to talk about here. So thanks for listening, but now we got to take a look at Rusty's overall look. Alright, now we have Rusty's overall look. We'll start off with his head being that burlap sack. Now, I feel like they could have done something a lot more interesting and unique here. It really just makes him look like a scarecrow when he's not supposed to be. He is supposed to be a human being. So I really wish they could have done something a little bit more original here, like maybe gave him an original serial killer mask like all the slasher villains have. So if they did something like that, make their own custom like serial killer mask, that could have looked really cool. Or hell, even just showing his face I think would have been better. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of the burlap idea here. They should have definitely done something a little bit more unique, and I don't know. For his clothes and stuff now, I think they're fine. The colors look great. I just really wish, again, there's a massive lack of blood. So I wish this thing was a complete gore fest again with this prop. But no, they really just have to tone everything back for some reason. I just think having the chainsaw covered in blood, his clothes covered in blood would have been so awesome. And just really make me love this prop even more. But I don't know. I think it's all right, the clothes and stuff. Very basic. And now for the chainsaw. I think the chainsaw looks great. Obviously, they couldn't have the chainsaw actually spin, which is a little bit disappointing. I mean, I guess I should have talked about that in animation, but I think for overall, the look of the chainsaw looks fine. It's pretty detailed and stuff, so I like the chainsaw a lot here. But if you couldn't tell, there's just, I feel like Rusty is a bit weak in his terms of overall look, but he definitely has the serial killer vibe going on very strong here. But the point for overall look will definitely, without a doubt, go to Buzzsaw. I mean, it's really no surprise at this point. Most of you probably picked it out as soon as I started talking about this guy, but I think he's alright. There's definitely so much more they could have done with Rusty, which is a big disappointment in my opinion. I wish he really could have had an original face. I feel like the clothes and everything, I would have just let slide, but the face, just the burlap sack over his head makes him look like a scarecrow, and most people probably thought he was a scarecrow, but no, he is meant to be a human being, which honestly, having that burlap sack really disappoints me. But anyways, we'll see who won, so that's pretty much it. Let's go see who won. Now, finally, the winner of this versus video matchup is Buzzsaw. That's right, everyone. Buzzsaw takes the championship today for this versus video matchup. Now, obviously, all the points I brought up, obviously, he is definitely the clear winner here. He just has a lot more going on compared to Rusty, and I think overall he is a better prop. But nonetheless, I still do love Rusty and Buzzsaw quite a bit. I definitely think they are very, very unique props, and I really feel like we should be getting more serial killer props. There's just something so cool about serial killer props, in my opinion, and I feel like they don't do them enough. And Buzzsaw is a clear example of why they should be making more serial killer props. But that's pretty much it for this video, everybody. Be sure to like and subscribe, as always. Also, check out my merch and the Instagram in the description below. Leave a comment which one is your favorite, because I'm definitely interested to hear which ones you guys think should have won the versus video matchup. And again, this is my opinion. I just really wanted to lay out the table here with all the points that I think are better and worse. But let me know which one is your favorite in the comments below. And as always, this is the Pixelated Pumpkin, signing out.